Hello and welcome to our live theory series on biotechnology to help improve your life. I'm your host, Dr. Deb Drake, and I'm so happy to have Anne and Monica and our other students in the wings here on our usual Tuesday afternoon training session on the theory of how to tune up your body. Today, we've jumping into a more light-based system. For the last several weeks, we were talking about bioterrain correction and magnetic therapy and sound therapy and biofeedback therapy. Now I'd like to jack it up a couple octaves and put into your mind the knowledge of what is light therapy and how light therapy mimics sound therapy at certain particular parts of the electromagnetic spectrum. The light and sound match each other and can be transduced into each other. So we can send sound signals that turn into light or light signals that trigger sound, much like you could have, triggering of a digital synthesizer or piano by using digital MIDI signals of sound. We can also trigger with light modalities. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint. And last week I gave you a doozy one, and I'll post that in your back office at the ilovemygenius.com Mighty Networks blog. But today I'd like to do part 2 of that, which takes you not just how the world is made of light, but how we have to master light in order to truly gain control of our lives. Okay. So last week, I think we got up to slide, near 100, where we talked about vibrations. We talked about, sound vibrations, if you will. Remember, and we left off by saying that your pineal gland is what receives light into the seasonal rotations of your body. And that is based on making sacred geometry transmitters in your body through that shape that takes on that biological shape. So today I want to take that further and talk about how do lasers and LED lights take on shapes? How can they be harnessed for a therapeutic effect? And how can we transmit the different shapes we see in chemistry? And can they be translated into digital signatures that can be retranslated or transmuted, as we learned last week, into magnets? Or can they transmuted into light signals? And which light signals are the best for what parts of the body? So you're going to laugh when I say I made a rainbow of all the rainbow colors of the piano, the colors of the notes on the piano, the oxygen, silica, iron, whatever minerals are on there. And it's just really a statement of how beautifully organized our bodies are, that they have this much musical organization and this much color bandwidth organization. Doesn't that suggest to you that there's an air traffic controller called, the great creator that has organized with infinite intelligence how all this operates in interfaces? Instead of having mischanneling and noise and interference, we have better communications when we follow those colors of nature. So last week I showed you that you can vibrate different shapes within your body with a magnet. Here's a magnetic speaker that vibrates with electrical shavings on it or iron shavings on it. And as we tune up the frequencies, the iron shavings repel each other at different shapes and create these actually amazing cymatic patterns or universal patterns. Now, our job is to try to do the same thing in our brain with crystal transmitters. So we have to listen to the good vibrations of our food and the light that comes into us, captured into these chemical structures called neurotransmitters, which, by the way, notice they all have crystals in them, such as a round, circular, carbon-based prism. Okay. And last week I told you that each note on the piano actually has a different vibration, as if it's talking to a whole different chakra, a whole different mineral. There's such distinctive shapes that they're similar but not exactly the same. And so with subtle changes of something going sharp or flat from D to D sharp, that might indicate that the organ is normal in the D note, but in D sharp, maybe it's flat, maybe it's inflamed. And maybe if something's C minor or whatever, sharps and flats being used in this example as sharps, things can be inflamed. Now we know that throughout universal times, before the use of drugs, we used crystals in all cultures of the world that gave off vibrations for different organs, and different medicine women and men would put different jade crystals on you for serpentine jade if you had kidney problems or nervous system irritations, or they'd put gold on your jewelry to help with your conduction systems. We'd put orange calcite in the body to help with calcium assimilation. We'd put heliotrope over the pancreas for digestion. So there's very different stones that emanate these different patterns, okay? And those patterns can be detected with light therapy that can tell what frequency bandwidth has the color in. And I taught you last week that each bandwidth of color has a different shade of the prism of light transmitted into a rainbow, and that the rainbow of color is transmitted into fiber optic cables that communicate with our bodies at different light wavelengths, okay? So as light comes into our crown through our pineal, the light therapy is transduced into the hypothalamus manufacturing plant to make crystal transmitters. The crystal transmitters then go down to the glandular hormones and make chemical hormones. Is a step down, right? Light stepping down to transmitters, stepping down another notch to chemical, stepping down into the minerals, stepping down into the catalysts that turn the wheels of the water wheel of that organ and make it work. So our whole body is really communicating at the speed of light with these fiber optic cables, which we call meridians, but there's way more than just meridians. We know that blind people still can sense light. It has to come through the skin and the melatonin as well. That's how birds actually navigate through ferrite magnetic features in their eyes, and we have some in our heart that gives us magnetic feelings of what direction we're pointed in. And that light can be distributed through the body meridians to each of those wood, fire, earth, air, water, ether meridians to talk to different channels, like an air traffic controller talking to different planes, flying in different directions. He's sequencing their landing by going 2 hours for you, 2 hours for you. And the body gets into this circadian rhythm where the chi, light or prana or biophotons, that in chemistry terms turn into endobionts, that turn into platelets that are triangular shapes of light that turn into cellular structures and symplasm and protoplasm, and they make blood. Then the blood carries oxygen, then the oxygen carries it to capillaries and makes organs out of this, okay? So it is the key essential understanding that light is attracted to oxygen, which makes it very bright and brilliant and able to carry the 2 photons of light onto an oxygen is like 2 electrons onto oxygen makes water. And that water can go through your body and discharge those 2 electrons as battery hydrogen rocket fuel to any place in the body. So really oxygen is the carrier of light. And the carrier of light goes down these phosphorus biophotoilluminescent meridians, right? They carry phosphorus, which glows in the dark. Now, one time I got a great demonstration of this in Cuba where we went out on a midnight cruise and we could see the phospholuminescence of the fish in the water, and it made these trails and trails of light in the water. It was absolutely brilliant. So that's what our body's doing. It's sending trails of information through these fiber optic channels down to our reflexology charts that show that the anatomy of the body has different zones for wood, fire, earth, air, water, ether systems, as does the tongue, which very much reflects the circulation of the spleen and the internal, engine. Are you hot? Are you cold? Are you dry? Are you wet? Are you coated? Are you hairy? Are you swollen? Are you shriveled? Are you red? Are you pale? Are you purple? The ingredients of the tongue are really a great indicator of oxygen carriage. And then when you think about the controlled drive shafts, you got here your ears and your feet and your hands to wake up certain areas that are stiff. If you touch your ears, everybody now, walk the way up the entire back of your ear, inch by inch, millimeter by millimeter, and where it's sore, that's where the organ isn't getting enough oxygen at that moment, perhaps. And so that's where you want to move along to hold on to that area and allow people to improve their circulation by giving a signal to the acupuncture that says, hey, open up the channels, will you? Open up the moat, let some water through this gate here. It's too dry. So when we use acupuncture as meridians, we know that we're actually touching the whole body when we use light therapy, because it's going through the light crown to the neurotransmitters, to the meridians. So when you use light therapy, it's a very systemic treatment, okay? And when you shine light in the head, it's going to go to the parasympathetic nervous system, and it's going to get to the sympathetic nervous system. And it's going to give this extra hydrogen to say, I've got a charge up on my battery and I got a lot of energy to squeeze my tubes, or I got depleted energy with no light and no hydrogen, therefore no good water, no hydration, no flow, no meridians, and I got disease backed up in that organ system. And I taught you every week I've met you that the mitochondria, little incredible battery cell that has 2 cell walls like an ancient bacteria, and it has in between those 2 walls a capacitor, which is a battery chamber made of certain fatty acids that hold the energy that you're bringing into the battery through your light crystals, and you're storing the energy between the walls for metabolism. Then when your body says, oh, I need some more protein down in that, down in the liver, you basically go into overdrive and you create more light carrying DNA processing, ribosome production, and you make more proteins with that DNA light enhancing biophotonically rich mitochondria. So an easier way to say it is I'm charging up your batteries. When I use the Genius program, I'm delivering music hydrogen into you. When I use the coil, I'm delivering magnetic energy transduced into you. When I use light, I'm still sending in hydrogen extra electrons or biophotons. Highly excited electrons are called biophotons. So when you want to tune the body, we've talked for several weeks about how we would tune the body with string-like analogy where there's vibrational sound, but the meridians are also like strings that vibrate too, okay? So you do have a, if you want to find out if you got parasites, see if you're sore right here in your airway colon meridian. And if you put your finger here for 6 seconds and it turns red, that meridian is starving for some energy. There's a simple, easy test to see if your wood element is on fire. So we can learn some of these things in the coming weeks that I'm going to show you on how to examine your face or look at people's faces and different things. But when you look at each one of those strings on the guitar, it is vibrating a certain shape or a frequency, 180, sorry, what's that number there? 720 angle. So the angle of this fire sign, okay, the angle of it gives the predicted shape, which predicts the angles of the frequency. So this is 720 angle, you might want to call it 720 hertz. Whereas if you fold something differently, such as 8 facets, you get the air element, which is oxygen 8, and that is 1440 degrees if you add up all the angles. So that's how you can distinguish that triangle fire from an air element is 240 angle or digital frequency, 0.720, and one of the other ones is 1.440 digital frequency. Do you see how I'm saying I'm making a digital assumption of shape? And this is how we've transmuted shape in 3-dimension into a 2-dimensional digit. And then we can send that digit out back in form of light at 720 hertz lasers. Now, we also have other shapes. The 6 faces of the cube makes the earth element. That's a lot to do with carbohydrates and metabolism and how you build your bones and your structures. Great patio stones are made by squares, like the gut lining, the artery lining. They're all made of these gluten-rich. Gluten is the face of these bricks, and gluten is a good building block. But if you have parasites covered with gluten, you might attack your own building blocks with autoimmune diseases. Then when you go to the water sign, it's got 20 faces, okay? And its score is 3,000, okay, degrees. So it's got a totally different shape that can carry even more messages. It's got more facets, more triangles, more ability to carry information than almost any other symbol here, okay? And then when we get back to the dodecahedron of the ethers, the A note, as I called it, I'm not sure if I'm totally correct on these, but this is what I have understood this to mean. The 12 faces would be the ether area where we'd have the fatty acids that make your immune system run, and the endorphins and all the essential fatty acids for the brain. They're more like this shape for anti-inflammatory. So you can see that different molecules have different shapes that have different functions that fold with different angles that create different frequencies based on their shape, okay? So that's just like a string in a guitar, just like just like these platonic solids, which are all based on 432 tuning, 432 hertz, the frequency of the universe. Now, when we ask you to say those A, E, I, O, U, we can extract from your voice print where your A is hot or sharp or flat and dull, assuming that that would mean that your A system, which would be the ethers, is troubled. So you would have an electrical injury in your ethers if you were starting to say A, E, I, O, U, but every time you said the word A, you go, A. And you're graveling and the computer picks up an invader virus in your nervous system. So that's the precision with 6 decimal places of accuracy that the Genius voice print can determine which of these bandwidths are sticking out like a sore thumb or missing like a deep well that shouldn't be empty. And as a result of us checking your voice for voltage at 6 different levels of volume and across a frequency spectrum up to 20,000 hertz, we're able to predict with great accuracy, by using a clear voice and saying A, E, I, O, U for 3 seconds, we're actually getting an incredibly accurate positive frame or mirror image of you with no negative side effects, no invasion, no transmission, no undue circumstances. It just is basically giving us some directions as to where to bring you back into eutonia by saying, where are you sharp or flat? Which organs are missing all their minerals altogether? There's no red zinc in your body. Okay. There's no blue cobalt in your pituitary. No wonder you're sad. Okay. And by the computer uses its intelligence. So I'm trying to reassure you, genius users, that you yourself do not have to have a PhD of education to use the genius. The genius is a PhD education of genius, the genius of the universe, digitalized into a ice cream parlor of flavors that are exactly exquisitely matched to the body parts, the mineral, the emotions, etc., through frequencies. And by doing this, we can actually look at which minerals and which organs are missing, which minerals, which octave of the organs are missing, what octave is the mineral, meaning is it a physical problem in the outer circle, or the higher up and higher up and higher up we go, the more spiritual the problem is, okay? We don't stop at 12 octaves of music on the piano. We stop at 82 octaves, some people higher than that, who knows how high in infinity. So when you get the reflection back from the genius program that says, I'm hot with celiac disease, my wood or my stomach element might be on fire, and there's a fungus among us, well, that might mean that your endoderm and your guts might be overgrown with the wrong pH. And if a virus is present, usually it has to work on a very oxidized body, so maybe look for heavy metals. And if there's certain parasites in the body, well, they steal all the thyroid hormones, the zinc, tin, copper, manganese, whatever you've got there. So likely it's true that you might not even know what parasites are in there or what they've stolen from you. And then you have to face the reality that the genius gives you the remedies. So now I don't have to go have a PhD of knowing the botanical world, the homeopathic world, the nutrition world, the Ayurvedic medicine world, the detox world, the dental world, the poisoning world, the homotoxicology world, the medical doctor world, the psychiatry world. Do you want to have a degree in all that like I do? No, I am in the genius because I studied God like perfectness, and that's why I am a good doctor. I studied the anatomy and physiology that Mother Nature already laid down, and when I know the anatomy so well, I can tell when something's amiss, right? It's just not normal. So if you're allowing the body's voice print to guide you, then don't be afraid of all these topics here. Don't be going, oh, I'm never going back to that. There was too many red zones, too many blue zones. No, these are exactly where you're stuck, that you should be scrubbing the floor with these extra scrub brush on these particular areas that are stubborn, okay? So in this case, this person has the lowest scores is some kind of priming vessel, missing all the ability for neurotransmitters and structuring their body, so they keep getting sick and sick. Well, why not give them back all the vitamins and minerals that make their structure first, then go to the detox? Okay, do you hear me? So strip the dance wax, but you have to use a bit of minerals and salt water to get that body scrubbed, then go back and strip all those nasty critters there, okay? So try a voice demo. If you guys are new to this channel, you can go to Insight Health Apps, okay, and .com under collections of PEMF devices and look at our coils. But if you just go to .com affiliate AFF equals 16, you can ask for a free trial for 2 weeks and check out that voice print on yourself and see what you think about yourself. And aren't you going to want to clean up the mess once you've spotted it? The only danger is in looking, but if you never look, there's even more danger, okay? Now, when we go back to this idea that we're going to now rewarm the body, we don't care if you're out of tune, because we got a piano tuner a la carte, the Genius program, to retune each of the body parts, all the elements, all the organs, all the systems, all the emotions, all the vibrations, and we can create a positive ripple effect back through the body in simple, non-invasive ways by putting positive light therapy through your crystal transmitters to re-sensory perceive that you're feeling better, lighter, happier, more harmonious, and that your body is getting more stem cell light, and that you're going to correct the darkness in your body that's creating what? Acidosis, right? Cancer comes from an acidic hole in the body or an alkaline gut full of yeast or mold. So if you are trying to get your body back into the middle of this pH scale where lovely oxygen lives, 7.35 to 7.45, then you need a lot of light and minerals to hold you at the center point of the teeter-totter. The center point being lithium. The acid side is to copper and zinc run this teeter-totter basically, along with oxygen. And if you can keep yourself with good oxygen in your body, let me just move this out of there. Can you see that oxygen is 65% of your body, and then a bit of carbohydrates, 18%, then hydrogen gases, 9.7 or 9.5, then nitrogen for protein. Did I say hydrogen is 9 and nitrogen 3%? Okay. Then a few 1% of all the other minerals. So you think that these minerals aren't very important because they're less than 1% of your body. But without these minerals of, manganese, molybdenum, selenium, silicon, tin, copper, zinc, cobalt, you can't run your thyroid thermostat. So you can't even deliver the oxygen to the end organ that you're trying to get to. So then you can't bring the oxygen back over here to the healthy, reduced, acidic, nice ocean water of the salty blood and salty lymph that you have. If you can't get light into your body, you start oxidizing with heavy metals. You start getting alkaline gut with all the pesticides and hormones. And then you start falling over down into that reduced alkaline blue, exhausted, suffocated, no oxygen zone where we get diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Now, when you're using your Genius, everything you're doing is just pumping all the hydrogen back in, all the light in, all the magnetism back in, all the minerals back in, all the metals out, because you're crowding them out with so many electrons that they get joined onto the metallic poisons at the top, and they start neutralizing the poisons, just like the ocean can wash in and out and be the hydrational amazing thing that washes everything in the whole ocean with just hydrogen, sodium chloride in the salt, and the H2O in the water are the universal solvent in the world. The water must lap in and out of you, though. The salt must be there to make it conductive, not just distilled water in the ocean. And the elements are what? The biophotonic capture. So when that light hits the water, then the water gets enlightened. Then when you drink enlightened water, you're bringing the light into your mitochondria, okay? And that's where you're going to redistribute as a light. So your brain is basically a light distributing company, and it has multiple different customers. And it has to have the source of light at the top in order to distribute to all the other relevant, customers down the chain. And it does so by instructing these light neurotransmitters in your brain to capture that light in certain stimulations like adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, run for your life. So then you have adrenaline to crack in half, release oxygen, and you can run like the wind. But then it says, oh no, but you need to have serotonin to heal your lymph nodes, and you have to slow down your gut for acetylcholine to eat. So the body has the on and the off switch and the neutral switch. Okay, there's pretty much nothing else. There's like on, semi-on, neutral, and off. So just like your car, you got a reverse in there too. You can go to bed and have GABA and amino transmitters make you sleepy. But all of these are shapes, and all of these shapes carry prisms in them. Notice how many prisms are in each one of these triangles? Well, that's how your blood is able to capture light, in these prisms of platelets, prisms inside glucose, prisms inside 4 glucose together, making a steroid sex hormone. So when you come in here and you're missing your basic priming vessel transmitters and your basic nutrients and your basic minerals and water, this is the quote from our new bioterrain library, where I put everything I think you would need in the IV bag of life in this vessel priming frequencies with the help of Denise Armenio. And if this is the lowest score on your whole body, is this really the best day for you to be detoxing every worm in the house and every parasite when you don't even have enough ocean water to wash and flush yourself yet? So I want you to be aware that maybe it's not wise to do everything every time on everybody, and that you may have to look closely at who's already so depleted that when they come to you, before you hit all of these things, bring down the celiac disease, bring up the bottom of the vessel to be able to withhold all this new energy you're trying to pour in there. And again, I said pineal gland tunes to 54 hertz. The oxygen is 54 hertz. The pineal gland opens between 40 and 100 hertz. And right now the planet is being bombed with a massive amount of gamma waves from the last 16 CME blasts in the last 2 weeks. And 2 more coming at us, making everyone sleepy so that our pineal gland can reformat our brains into a 64 cycle, not a 32-bit cycle computer. So that's the evolution that man's going through right now. We're going from a 32-bit beta wave body to a 64 hertz gamma wave body, a light body. And this is what we call the awakening of the planet, okay? And you're going to find that many people are coming to you with headaches, expansion, sleepiness, feeling nauseated, dizzy, because their head is actually literally running at double the speed. Now, I have talked to you about before any contraindications for using PEMF or light therapy, and I would like you to review that in one of our bigger tutorials, but I can just remind you that there's almost no contraindications to light therapy, except if you had a bleeding wound right at the site where you don't want to increase the blood flow right at the wound and make it bleed more, or a pus-filled, infection right underneath the light. You don't want to infect your material, or somebody with blazingly high blood pressure crisis where you don't want to stimulate light, which always brings the heat up in the body and increases flow of blood pressure. So I would like to go, if you guys can handle it, I hope that that's sort of a recap of why light is so important. And now I'd like to show you that there are different kinds of light therapy with very different properties. So you're going to need to know the lingo on this, okay? So I want you to know that if you notice that there is a spectrum on the piano between middle C and down an octave and middle C up an octave, that's between 256 and 960 nanometers of light, which is exactly where a rainbow shows up. That's the spectrum of light where visible light shows up, okay? And I want you to notice that 528, that repairs all chromosomes and DNA and love field, is right in smack dab in the middle of the rainbow, okay? Now, dogs can hear a bit higher than us, like up to 30,000 hertz. We can usually hear up to 20,000. Light waves vibrate in the subaudible range of 1 to 32 cycles a second, up to about 100. Okay, brain waves, pardon my mistake there. Brain waves vibrate between 1 and 32, and now they're going up to gamma waves, which is 66, technically it's 40 hertz to 100 for the gamma waves, okay? The gamma waves are way up there. And that's why everybody is getting a little ornery on the planet. We're all who can be light workers and who have a clear enough vessel are absorbing more and more light and becoming more and more intelligent and compassionate and harmonious and less divisive, because we know that there's no division of light. We're all equal, whatever color of petal you are. So the second light spectrum is also visible, not at the middle 5 octaves of music, but up at the 52nd octave of music. There's also infrared and ultraviolet, or some very high vibrational waves that are responsible for spiritual clairvoyance. They're higher than X-rays, although they're lower than cosmic waves, but they're rapidly vibrating so high that they're beyond your sight and your hearing, okay? So when you look at the sky and you see a rainbow in the sky, there's a different frequency bandwidth carrying the UVA light, the UVB light, the UVC light at that higher frequency level. And that can be healing as well as the light that we have in the piano range on the lasers at home, okay? So I'm going to try and give you a little bit of an understanding of why people get confused. There's 2 spectrums of light. The sunlight provides UV light in the ultraviolet range, okay? And it's crucial for cellular biology, vitamin D, and ergosterol, the ingredient from cholesterol and olive oil that turns into your 20 steroid hormones like progesterone, estrogen, cortisone, testosterone, okay? So if you want to get your bones growing, you get into the beautiful, outside light, then you're getting all this beautiful vitamin D turning on your growth hormones, and this regulates your minerals, immunity, skin, and mood. Now, UV light itself has 3 bands within it, called UVA, near UVA, which is the one that causes your sunburn, like the erythema of your skin when you're tanning. And it passes through regular glass, okay? So that's why we have glass at 315 to 400 nanometers, okay? The light will pass through my glass. Then we have UVB light, which contains the vital rays of the healing fields for deeper penetration into the dermis. Notice the wavelength is smaller and faster, so it can go deeper. And then the UVC light, which is blocked by the Earth's ozone layer, it's the one that creates the vitamin D, the one that's really quite important. So that's 120 to 280 nanometers. Now, I just want you to listen to me carefully. Under 1000 hertz, nanometers is almost identical or equivalent to hertz frequencies. So you could say that the UVA is 315 to 400 hertz, that the UVB light for vital rays of healing the deeper skin would be 280 to 315 hertz. The UVC to help your vitamin D could be translated into your body at 180 to 280 hertz. And through that, our Genius program can emit these frequencies that mimic light at those hertz and send it to our light bracelet, which then can transmit light. Okay, so there's kind of like the reverse transposition. So I wanted you to be aware that, you know, Nikola Tesla produced what lights that captured UVC in his solarium windows. He noticed that UVB light was visible when you took the iron out of the glass of the window. So eventually they manufactured high-tech German windows that were solarium bed windows employing these Tesla technologies with no iron in the glass, so that the UVB light would help the skin and the people with, you know, leprosy or whatever skin conditions they were having. Tuberculosis, for instance. So the artificial UVB light devices were introduced as light therapy that you can get around the body, and you can buy them on the market. And these UVB lights are available in the world. And I'm going to suggest to you that that's a whole other topic. I'm not going to present a lot of that. I'm just trying to give you the theory of what's available. Okay. Now, Tesla's therapy with UVB was later used for seasonal affective disorder because it actually got through those people's tired, sun-deficient northern hemispheres in the cold, dark winters at high latitudes, and the light of the ultraviolet range became invisible but crucial for life up there. So he was able to help the serotonin levels and the pineal gland's melatonin levels start stimulating these happy hormones in the middle of the winter in the middle of nowhere. Now, Nikola Tesla eventually then developed healthy windows, which captured UVC light for the solarium window. So in this case, he not only took out the iron out of the window, but he passed the light through a quartz glass prism, shall we say? Remember, I keep talking to you about light as prism. So he passed the light through a quartz crystal, the same quartz crystal in your mitochondria, by the way. And that UVC light was able to allow all the frequencies to pass right through the glass. All the frequencies pass through the crystal. Okay, do you understand me? So a crystal of quartz allows everything to come through like a gigantic microphone. And it captures the most important light spectrum for charging up the vitamin D derivatives in the skin, because it's finally getting the UVC light in you. Now, shining sunlight through a quartz crystal, Tesla was able to filter the windows down to 180 to 280 nanometers, which I'm going to tell you is like 180 to 200 hertz. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, for UVC to capture the healing properties. So now we can translate that into the Genius program and take capturing of creating what would normally be a filtered UVC light, and we could broadcast into the body without harm. And he also created ozonation by oxidizing oxygen with a purple ray of light, of UV light. It turned into ozone, which is O3, which then released one oxygen called O1, which is a free radical scavenger and jumped onto metals, and it's like a foaming mouthwash in the body. And then you were left over with oxygen 2, which beautifully would carry more light in the body. So he found out that the antiseptic effect of killing surface bacteria, as used in his New Yorker hotel, was a sterilization method in the hotel rooms that used a purple ray of light and some ozone, and he sterilized room after room in the hotel to keep them from germs passing through. This is now coming back probably into vogue, and I would suspect to you that all of us need to be a little bit more vigilant about this incredible technology. So the vital light of Nikola Tesla, the healing power of ultraviolet lights, was written up by Bob Connolly, a dear friend of mine, and he has a website, bobconnolly.com. He's brilliant on Tesla technology, and I encourage you to learn more if you want from his website. I put the references down here to some of his references that he strongly recommends as resources from him. And I'd strongly recommend that you might want to look at his website for other things, that he's got such an incredible library of things there. And it talks about the effects of infrared light, the creation of vitamin D using UV light, how to use UVB, and what ultraviolet LEDs are more effective, okay? So now I want to show you that LED lights are, what are they different than a laser light or sunlight? Let's find out. And also here's a couple of Vitality used in my Vitality magazine in Canada is a really excellent article on the use of ozone in dentistry by Michael Schechter. And I would refer you to other ozone doctors in Ontario if you want, or UV light bulbs, where you can get some of those kinds of things, okay? Now, Can we switch gears? I know there's a lot to cover, but I do know that we've got 15 minutes left. So let's make sure that before we go down the rabbit hole of what kind of light therapy, that you know what are the different kinds of lights and how do they work, so you'll know the cautions and which ones can burn or which ones don't burn. Okay, so lasers can burn, LEDs don't burn. Memorize that. Lasers can burn, LEDs cannot burn. I want to show you why and how. So LEDs use low-level Gauss incoherent light that's all blended, so they have a very high safety profile. And LEDs can generate both red and infrared diodes of light, including other lights, but the most powerful ones that penetrate the skin are in the red and infrared range. So by capturing that spectrum of the rainbow using red light for improving circulation and reducing inflammation, by knocking up that ATP energy production center in the mitochondria, and by having its longer wavelength in red, it has a deeper penetration and it has a very fast therapy time. It basically only takes about 25 to 45 minutes of light therapy to get done hours of work within the mitochondria, okay? Contraindications, as I mentioned, there's no real contraindications for red or infrared light, but just use it. You know, if somebody has medications that are light sensitive, they're on an antibiotic or they get sunburn sensitive, watch out. And the relative contraindication would be with somebody with lupus or a hypertensive crisis or bleeding or fever, in case they're already too hot and or skin sensitive. Now, green light is great for the heart and cell division. So it helps for any repair after injuries. It starts the mitochondria pumping. But if you have a tumor that's active and metastatic and growing like crazy, don't use green light in somebody with a cancer. We're trying to reduce their cell proliferation during cancer therapy. So you might want to move back on that. Now, purple light primarily shouldn't be used in children because it stimulates the pineal gland for growth hormone that might overgrow them too fast or create a prolactin tumor or something. And you don't want to necessarily increase the prolactin level in a breastfeeding or pregnant woman. So those are very simple. So it's pretty close to a perfect therapy, just going out in the sunlight. What have you got to lose? The best practices for frequency is to learn under an apprenticeship or licensed person about magnetic therapy, light therapy, and sound therapy, because hands-on experience is invaluable, but there are protocols. How many minutes do you need? Under what part of the body do you aim the light? So there are full-blown frequency light therapist courses available for you, okay? I'm just going over the basics here. Remember that many health conditions may change under therapy, so don't change a person's dosages or medications without them consulting with a professional. But the professional might need to know that their blood pressure is dropping and not think that they're sick. If you're just improving their blood flow, maybe they don't need such a heavy-duty dose of 5 anti-hypertensive drugs, that maybe they can drop some of these diuretics or cardiac pills if their heart is working so much better. So keep the communications lines open, okay? Now, share your strategy with other professionals so they know what you're doing, and they might have some clients to send you back as well. And remember that it's light, sound, and PEMF therapy are so safe, but unfortunately tabooed by insurance. Hi, folks. I'm back. I'm not sure what just happened there, but I lost my screen share for you. Apologize for that little delay there. Let's just go back. We've got a few more slides to go before we're finished. So I'll jump right back in where we left off. Can you hear me okay, everybody? And see my screen? Are we recording here? Okay. So apologize for that little glitch there, kids. Okay, let's get back to a little bit of Monica, would you mind just unmuting and telling me that you can hear and see me fine? Anybody? Anne, are you there? It's all good? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so as we were just saying before we got a little clipped out of there, the contraindications are few, and you can use light therapy in almost anybody. And I'm not going to go back over a whole nother thing about how we talked about using frequency therapy can cause exhaustion. You may need to get over the time to detox. You need time to bring out the metals and toxins. So I want you to be aware that light therapy is pretty darn strong, and it does accelerate the system. I think it's much faster than some of the other methods we've been using. So you might see that old wounds would become symptomatic quicker. So you just need to take it easy. If you get headaches, if you're disturbed, your taste is off, your blood pressure is changing, you may have to watch out. Class before. And that'll just basically give you an idea of what you'd maybe want to give every client in terms of how much vitamin D, what to give them in terms of restoring. We went across that over last. Watch out for tolerance and gradual acclimatization, okay? 2 minutes of therapy doubles your oxygen, so you don't have to spend a lot of time. 20 minutes is quite a bit for light therapy. And since, it's instantaneous, it goes through the whole body, usually limit it to 1 hour. If you're going to go crazy on it, don't go more than an hour to see how you react, because it is quite a bit stronger than some of the other elements you've been using. And you can use safety by fluctuating the colors every 2 to 8 minutes or up to 20 minutes each color. You can change the colors as you're sequencing it, and that allows better tolerance to occur over time. Just avoid high dosing at prolonged levels, especially if they're an electrosensitive disordered client, or if they're ungrounded, or if they're irritated or headachy or whining, or certainly if they bawl their eyes out, there's something sensitive here. And just use the manufacturer's guidelines for hydration, especially before, during, and after, to avoid Herxheimer reactions or die-off reactions, okay? And also, please do make sure that if you're doing it around the head or the teeth or the eyes, that you be careful, because some people just are just sensitive around these organs of importance. So just be careful. If they're palpitating, having heart racing side effects, that might be the detox reaction, but it could be something more serious. So be careful, and make sure that if they've got a hearing aid on, that could be triggered by cochlear implants or other implantable oscillations. Then the frequencies of high light frequencies could set off a buzz in their hearing aid, okay? So take that off during any therapies. Remember that 60 cycle hum makes the body hate the electrical field, because it's interfering with the blood enzymes at about 66.5 hertz. So people who are sitting around plugs, amplifiers, outlets, extension cords, they're not going to do well. They don't handle light and heavy duty therapy light is going to go in you, but it actually does travel through clothes. Okay, it is a PEMF signature. Don't let anything overheat, and don't yank cables out of things. With the light therapy, we're going to put a very delicate cable in there to recharge it. Don't be pulling on it, dropping it. You don't want to have to replace that. Okay, watch out around children. You know, don't let them spill stuff and trip and don't use it without a shielded cable, and make sure you turn off your devices when they're not in use to keep their life and wear and tear down. Okay, and don't even put them near a TV. You'll see the screen shaking a little bit, and if an allergic reaction stops you from using it, try a friendly towel in between. If that problematic continues, then stop, take off the magnetic devices and see if things heal, see what's going on. And I'm not going to, you know, be diagnostically giving you medical advice here. This is just good practice as a coach. If somebody's irritated by the method you're using, change methods. Okay. Now, how long is the time here? Oh, 1 more minute. I had so much to teach you. I guess I'm gonna have to come back next week and do it all. Let's just quickly say that light comes in forms called receiving through sensory signals, diaphragm signals, neurotransmitters, and acoustic signals. And we can use all of this to benefit our bodies with polarized light, where we send light through a filter that makes it vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. So it takes out half of the light, such as the glare on your glasses. Okay, like these special glare glasses that I wear for the computer. These can be polarizing and or taking out some of the tint in the light. The second way to look at light is that all glasses can be trimmed like military precision to take out the extra biophotons of glare. Now, we also have other kinds of light besides being polarized. They could be poly, meaning many, chromatic, meaning colors. So polychromatic light is a many colored light with many different bandwidths, all based up in one color or mixture, and they all form the rainbow of colors together. Okay, that can act like white noise or interference, or the subconscious mind can be this carrier wave of all things, and we can actually absorb, you know, through our systems many wavelengths of light at the same time. Okay, and then we can also change that light from the sunlight into different LED lights, some yellow lights, some green lights, some blue lights, some red lights, all different light bulb colors at different frequencies to give different cycles per second. Okay, so when we know that there's a rainbow color of 1-to-1 matching color frequencies and the sound spectrum, we can use a sound light board to transmute light into frequencies. So now we can use your light wand on your wrist, or your light wearable bracelet, and we can send frequencies of light into there, and it can transmute it backwards into certain cycles per second or hertz into your body. So it can go both ways here. This is the most amazing thing here. The sounds of specific frequencies can be sent to a biophoto modulator, that's our equipment, to convert the wavelengths of visual light signals matching into various frequencies that match our organs or minerals. So we have been investigating how to do this by using different frequencies of wavelength. Now you can use one wavelength at a time, such as monochromatic light, where there's only one color used at a time, right? Or as I said, you could use a monochromatic light for different areas, like blue and copper color could be used to highlight blue light therapy on the thymus and thyroid, which vibrate around 440 hertz, the color of blue, the color of cobalt, and the vitamin cobalt, which is 440 hertz, pituitary hormone 440 hertz. So now we can send the color back to the organ of its proper frequency. We can also use red and far infrared light. I want you to know that this is the one that we most typically use, because light stimulates where the energy in the blood are needed, and infrared light penetrates the dermis of the skin right down to the collagen levels, okay, where you're getting antioxidant and DNA repair. So now we're using infrared, you know, facial treatments and wound injuries for collagen repair. And now we can use hormones of different wavelengths, one of each color if you wanted to. Basically, the red, orange, yellow, green, blue rainbows can give, you can put people with color therapy and stimulate all their hormones so that each one of their chakras is vibrating in its perfect pitch. Or you can change that backwards and take the color therapy and send it back to the stem cells in the red infrared zone and take the stem cells and stimulate them. So now I want to show you that incoherent waves are really scattered and wavy. So they're not exactly linear, okay? They're random, they're chaotic, they're softer, right? They're not as destructive, like not a tsunami on the shore, but a nice gentle wave on the shore. And they cancel out motion forward and backwards, and eventually they come sort of to balance point, okay? So they're irregular, overlapping, soft, diffused LEDs are more tolerable to give incoherent waves that make this kind of a pattern so it won't burn you. When you use the opposite, so let's take advantage of destructive interference. When the waves are all aligned, okay, they're very, they're like scalar waves. They can add up to a tsunami. But if they're incoherent and they're a little bit staggered, some of them are positive, some are negative, and they cancel each other out, okay? So the incoherent, more wiggly, chaotic pattern creates interference patterns that dissolve, decay any forward motion. They scatter, they create disharmony to blunt or blur or soften any intense effects. So LED light therapy is what is also known as a cool laser instead of a hot laser. These harness these scattered patterns of incoherent energy to create positive, tolerable, therapeutic effects, okay? And it's excess of any, the excess of any destructive exposure to distortion or noise or toxins can be erased by this. So if you have heavy metals in the body or pesticide poisoning, this destructive interference pattern can wiggle and wiggle, you know, the poison out of its resting place and help disperse it out into the circulation where it can be flushed out of you. So through this principle of destructive interference cancellation waves, if you will, we can use light therapy to cancel out other disruptive chaotic noises in the body, and we can piggyback positive quantum biofeedback computers that apply positive waves into the body to build things up, or incoherent waves to scatter things out and dilute them. And so this is the inverted waveforms that are opposite frequencies. We can put in a plus charge of plus 780 or minus 780, and we can diminish things down that are too high, or we can build things up that are too low. And in this way, we're able to modify reduction of inflammation, a reduction of degeneration by not curing diseases, but by balancing you to the homeostasis point by using incoherent light. Now, when we use a soft blurred focus with within these wavelengths, and especially in that infrared and near infrared wavelength, it creates a tremendously soothing impact on the body, and it overlaps with this destructive interference to reduce the dangers of what would be otherwise a hot laser beam that could cut you or scar you or cause cauterization. So these incoherent LEDs are cold lasers or cold light with less intensity, and they can be singular in color or multicolored, and they can frequency modulate exact pitches and be transmuted into sounds as well. So for these safety and energy consumption reasons, most people in the world are using multicolored lasers, and they make the most ideal non-invasive healing modality without intensive medical training required, because they can't hurt you. Anybody could use it. It's mobile and portable. It doesn't harm any of your body organ structures. It only brings oxygen, which is known to be universally powerful and important. And so by using LED lights, we can create a safe clinical environment for you beginners who are using Genius and never seen anything like this before. And you can know that you're not going to get in trouble with burning the skin or having, you know, problems like that. We're instead showing the scattered headlight into your bloodstream, and your body's going to suck in all that energy in those mitochondria. And then that mitochondria is going to build up your stem cells and go and do other work, even after the light therapy is over. For 90 minutes after the light therapy, these reactions are still going on. So I've only got a few more slides. Oh, no, I don't. I have a whole bunch more slides. Well, I'm wondering if I should quit today by just showing you one more thing, if you can stand 5 more minutes, guys, because I did start a bit late with that interruption. But let's just talk about the scientific definition of incoherent LEDs, which are what are scattered, and I just showed you, versus coherent lasers, okay? You notice how the coherent laser is all in the same phase at the same time, so that it adds up into an additive wave that can actually cauterize or burn, or be a laser that you can shine up through a pointer across an auditorium to point at a laser screen, or somebody could send that up to outer space a mile away. Because it's all coherent together, then these create a serious threat to safety a little bit more than the incoherent LEDs that cannot burn you. Okay, so that's the major picture I want you to leave today in your mind, knowing that the light and sound coherence create harmony in your body. They dispel the discordant and disharmonic resonances. They have very high energy to make constructive waves to burn things. You can use LED light therapy for skin, but they are using lasers and coherent light in the eyeballs to actually use destructive interference to cut the eyeballs and change the retina for laser surgery, right? So we have to realize that when we're by contrast, the incoherent light is giving destructive interference that cancels out the waves of negativity and can be really useful in skincare industry, wrinkles, pain, muscle relaxation, reduction of inflammation, and premature aging. Okay. So in the next, I've got another 100 slides to go. So I'm going to have to bring you back next week to start talking about how we're going to apply these incoherent waves versus coherent waves, and how we're going to allow the harmonic improvements in the body is going to really come around the corner more quickly than you can imagine, with less invasion and more results, because the mitochondria is actually healing itself. So on that note, I would like to just, let's just take a moment here. Coherent light can align your body like a recording media. Light, when synchronized in phase, can create coherence. Regular standing waves and force fields can hold up a lattice of energy, piggybacking other digital waves on top of them. So if we could put down a nice bass track like that, fundamental light track, we can piggyback other frequencies of the genius deeper into the body through using that piggyback. And light can also be used directionally, can focus a beam on certain organs. We can use, as focused lasers do focus on telecommunications, we're going to use the incoherent light to slowly, destructively interfere with these superimposed colliding waves that will dissolve each other and dissolve the heavy metals, dissolve the toxins, the poisons, the fluoride toxicity, incoherently canceling them out, partially creating a discohesion temporarily, and a desynchronization in your body temporarily, as you cancel out these poisons that might have to come out through your sweat, your breath, your urine, your feces. And that's why we tell you, don't go so fast that you're causing too much discharge all at once. But in this way, over time, we dissolve the patterns of injury, which are positive charges, by putting in negative charges, inflammation where you're too sharp and we bring you back down with normal oxygen consumption, and where you're degenerative or lost minerals, then we bring you up to power. So I want you to think that destructive interference can wash away toxins. It can be helped by flushing you with more water, by breathing deeper gases off at night with deep sleep, with the crystal technology we talked about. And you want to energize the flow in and out of your harbor so that your lighthouse is actually able to see who is, in trouble and where you can shine a light on the body for repair. And remember that incoherent light is coming from nature at all times. So you make sure you get outside and get the beautiful 9:30 a.m. sunlight of the full spectrum of all UV, A, B, and C, and make sure you couple those frequencies and get the body in proper nutrition to receive those frequencies. And next time I'd like to come back and talk to you a little bit more how we would apply these in actual therapy sessions by using not high energy beams for telecommunications. But I do want to mention that what's happening this week, right? The Starlink satellite is being released across the planet that is going to use fiber optic digital transmission of Wi-Fi to all places around the world. So this is going to bring us into a new 5D world. If you want to stay on your old, five old television sets, they won't work on the new quantum computers and the new quantum financial system. So you're going to have to get a new quantum phone, quantum television, but it'll absorb these biophotonic energy fields around the whole world for free Wi-Fi and a telecommunications ability to now give education through optical transmission around the entire world. So this is where we're at right now, folks. And this is really what we're talking about, is the whole new world facing us in the coming years as we bring light therapy, telecommunications, low voltage fiber optic cables around the world. We can use light therapy to connect with ourselves. And now we can connect at the microscopic level using either hot and cold lasers, not for weaponry, but for surgical abilities and for therapeutic abilities. And all of these laser therapies in the eye, can you imagine that they can do that on an eyeball? What can we do in terms of using that for other improvements in general health without having the side effects and risks? And now, so that's why we're bringing up in the next couple of weeks the introduction of several tutorials on the Genius wearable light therapy, which uses 20 little LEDs that will pass through your skin and give the stimulation of the UV red spectrum, delivering it down through your ATP into mitochondria, deep through the dermis into your skin and collagen. And this will piggyback on top of it with Bluetooth, your Genius program, sending the signals from your Bluetooth into the light therapy to transduce all the healing energies with an even deeper quantum tunneling effect. So this is where I'm really excited to show you in the coming weeks. And on that note, I'm going to quit for today. Say, come on back next week and we'll talk about a little bit more of some of these applications for the new Genius wearables and how light therapy can change your life in the blink of an eye. And watch out for your exhaustion in the next few days as these gigantic CME light carrying blasts of digital energy and information are hitting our planet this week like no other time in history. 16 CMEs in the last 16 days. So the world is charging you up. Eat well, drink well, get your minerals and vitamin D in there, and get outside and play in some of that sunshine. And for heaven's sakes, keep on your Genius program to open up your drainage pathways so you can handle this transition, which is biblical. So say goodbye for this week, folks. See you again next week. And don't forget, I believe that there's going to be a change in our webinar Thursday, I believe, has been moved back to Wednesday for Denise Armenio's navigation session. If you want to check that schedule, just go to ilovemygenius.com under the events page. If you need other further help or assistance, contact support at insighthealthapps.com. And I look forward to seeing you. And if you see our replays on YouTube, please give us a like and a share so that other people around the world can start understanding about this wonderful new transition into bioenergetic world of natural medicine. Thanks for watching, folks. Signing off for now, and God bless you all. Take care.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Dr. Deb. That was great.
Great. Glad to see you guys. Take care and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.